The ice cut through Ji Woo's thermal suit like 1,000 tiny knives. She had stopped feeling her fingers 3 hours ago, which was bad. Very bad. On Vostok 7, losing feeling meant losing flesh, and losing flesh meant you couldn't work, and not working meant your debt grew bigger. The debt was already so big that Ji Woo couldn't imagine ever paying it off. 8 years she had been here, breathing the thin air that burned her lungs, lifting ice blocks that froze to her gloves, watching the endless white landscape that had no sun and no warmth. The Vrax overseers didn't care about cold. They were insect-like creatures with thick shells that protected them from everything. They stood in their heated observation towers and watched the humans work through cameras, counting every block of ice, measuring every second of rest. Ji Woo had learned not to rest. Rest meant punishment. Rest meant they added days to your contract. But today, her body had made the choice for her. She fell face first into the snow. The cold embraced her like an old enemy welcoming her home. Ji Woo tried to push herself up, but her arms wouldn't move. Her suit had finally torn somewhere, she realized. The warmth was leaking out, and the cold was rushing in. She could hear the other workers nearby, their pickaxes hitting the ice in steady rhythm. Nobody came to help her. They couldn't. The rules were clear. If you helped someone who fell, both of you got punished. Through her frosted visor, Ji Woo saw boots approaching. Not human boots. The clicking sound of Rack's legs on ice. Overseer Thixville stood over her, and even though she couldn't see its face clearly through the condensation, she knew it was pleased. The Vracks were always pleased when humans failed. Unit Ji Woo has ceased functioning, Thixville announced in its clicking voice. Cost of medical revival exceeds remaining contract value. Mark as loss. Leave it. Ji Woo wanted to cry, but even tears were freezing on her cheeks. This was it then. 8 years of suffering, and this was how it ended. Frozen in the snow like garbage. She thought of her sister Haejin still working in the processing center. At least Haejin was inside, away from the worst of the cold. At least she might survive. The boots walked away. The pickaxes kept hitting ice. The world started going dark around the edges. Then she heard something different. Not the click of Rack's legs. The heavy thud of human boots, running. Someone was breaking the rules. Someone was coming for. Ji Woo tried to tell them to stop, to save themselves. But her mouth wouldn't work anymore. Strong arms lifted her from the snow. Through her dimming vision, she saw a face she didn't recognize. A man, older than her, with scars on his jaw and eyes that looked like they had seen too much. He wore a long coat that didn't match the standard worker uniforms, and on his head was something she had only seen in old Earth videos. A hat with a wide brim. "I got you," the man said. His voice was warm, so warm it seemed impossible in this frozen place. "You're gonna be okay." "No," Ji Woo managed to whisper. "They'll punish." "Let them try," the man said, and started carrying her away from the worksite. Alarms started blaring across the colony. Thixville's voice screeched over the loudspeakers. "Unauthorized personnel. Stop immediately. That unit is corporate property." The man didn't stop. He walked faster, his boots crunching through the snow. Ji Woo felt movement, felt warmth starting to surround her. They were inside something. A ship. She heard the hiss of an airlock sealing, felt the sudden blast of heated air. "Stay with me," the man said, laying her on something soft. Softer than anything Ji Woo had touched in 8 years. "My name's Tae Yang. You're safe now." Safe. Ji Woo didn't know what that word meant anymore. She tried to speak, tried to warn him about what the Vracks would do, but darkness took her under. When she woke, warmth surrounded her completely. Real warmth, not the weak heat from a failing thermal suit. Ji Woo opened her eyes and saw a metal ceiling above her, lit by soft lights. Medical equipment hummed nearby. She was in a bed with actual blankets. For a moment, she thought she had died, and this was whatever came after. Then Taeyang's face appeared above her. "Welcome back," he said, smiling. "You've been out for 6 hours. How do you feel?" "Where?" Jiwoo's voice was rough, broken. "My ship. The Lone Star. We're about 3 hours away from Vostok 7 now, and getting farther every minute." Panic shot through Jiwoo like electricity. She tried to sit up, but her body was too weak. "No, you have to take me back. They'll add theft to my debt. They'll punish my sister. You don't understand what you've done." Taeyang gently pushed her back down onto the bed. "I understand plenty. I understand that I watched them leave you to die like you were nothing. Like you were trash. And I decided that wasn't going to happen today. But the corporation owns my contract. I'm property until my debt is paid." "Nobody owns you," Taeyang said, and there was steel in his voice. "I don't care what some bug-faced aliens wrote on a contract. You're a human being, and human beings aren't property." Jiwoo stared at him. Nobody had talked like this in years. Nobody dared. The corporations owned everything out here in the frontier. They had the ships, the weapons, the legal systems. Humans who defied them ended up dead or worse. "You're insane," she whispered. "They'll kill you for this." "They can try," Taeyang said, and his hand moved to his hip where Jiwoo saw weapons she had never seen before. They looked like guns from old Earth westerns, but they hummed with energy. "I've been doing this for a while now, Jiwoo. Picking up people the corporations throw away. Taking them somewhere they can be free. There's nowhere free. The corporations own everything." "Not everything," Taeyang said. "There are places in the dark between stars where people like us can live. It's not easy, and it's not comfortable, but it's free. You can come with me to one of those places. Start over." Jiwoo felt tears coming again, but these were different from the frozen ones in the snow. These were hot, angry, desperate. "My sister, Hyjin, she's still there. I can't leave her." Taeyang was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded slowly. "Tell me about your sister." So Jiwoo told him. About Hyjin, who's only 19, who had never known anything but the colony, who worked 16-hour shifts in the processing center. About how their parents had taken the contract to pay for medical treatment they never received. How the debt had passed to the daughters when the parents died. About 8 years of ice and cold and hopelessness. When she finished, Taeyang stood up and walked to the window. Outside, space stretched endless and black. "I know a place," he said finally. "A settlement where people like your sister could be safe. But getting her out, that's going to be dangerous. The Vraks don't like losing their workers." "Then forget it," Jiwoo said, her heart breaking. "Just take me somewhere I can work and send money to buy her contract." Taeyang turned back to her, and he was smiling again. Not a happy smile, but the smile of someone who had made a dangerous decision and didn't care about the consequences. "I didn't say I wouldn't do it. I said it would be dangerous. Dangerous is kind of my specialty." "Why?" Jiwoo asked. "Why would you help us? You don't know us." "Because someone has to," Taeyang said simply. "Because every time a human bows down and accepts that the aliens are in charge, we lose a little bit of what makes us human. And because a long time ago, someone helped me when they didn't have to. I'm just paying it forward." He walked to the door, then looked back. "Rest up, Jiwoo. You're going to need your strength. We've got a rescue mission to plan." After he left, Jiwoo lay in the warm bed and tried to understand what had happened. 1 hour ago, she had been dying in the snow. Now she was on a ship with a stranger who talked about freedom like it was real, who wore a cowboy hat in space, who thought he could stand against the corporations and win. It was crazy. It was impossible. But for the first time in 8 years, Jiwoo felt something she had forgotten existed. Hope. Jiwoo spent the next 3 days learning what freedom felt like, and it terrified her. On the Lone Star, nobody told her when to wake up or when to sleep. Nobody measured her rest time or counted her steps. Taeyang brought her food that didn't come from recycled protein paste, and he never asked her to pay for it or work it off. It was so different from the colony. The Jiwoo kept waiting for the punishment to come. "You're allowed to relax," Taeyang said on the third morning, finding her sitting rigid at the small kitchen table. "Nobody's watching you here." "I don't know how to relax anymore," Jiwoo admitted. Her hand shook as she held the cup of real coffee he had made. Real coffee, not the synthetic stuff. She had forgotten what it tasted like. Taeyang sat down across from her. Today he wasn't wearing the hat, and she could see his face more clearly. There were scars, yes, but also laugh lines around his eyes. He had smiled more in 3 days than she had in 8 years. "Tell me about before," he said. "Before the colony. What was your life like?" Nobody had asked Jiwoo about her life in so long. On Vostok 7, your past didn't matter. Only your debt mattered. But Taeyang waited patiently, and slowly Jiwoo found herself talking. About growing up on a small farming station near Mars. About her mother who loved music and her father who told jokes. About Haijin, who was always drawing pictures of places she wanted to visit. About the sickness that came, the medical bills that piled up, the contract that promised to solve everything. "They lied," Jiwoo said quietly. The contract said 5 years of work. But they kept adding fees. Equipment charges, housing costs, air taxes. The debt grew faster than we could pay it. And when our parents died from the work, Haijin and I inherited everything. Taeyang's jaw tightened. "I've heard that story too many times." The corporations know exactly what they're doing. They're slavers, just with better paperwork. "How did you escape?" Jiwoo asked. "You said someone helped you once." Taeyang stood up and walked to the window. Outside, stars drifted past as the Lone Star traveled through empty space. "I was military a long time ago. Earth Colonial Defense Force. We were supposed to protect human settlements from pirates and raiders. But more and more, they had us protecting corporate interests instead. Forcing workers back to colonies they had tried to escape. Shutting down settlements that didn't pay their taxes." He turned back to her. "One day, my unit was ordered to round up workers from an illegal farming commune. Kids, families, people just trying to live free. My commanding officer, a man named Dong Jun, he refused the order. He helped those people escape instead. Got himself court-martialed for it. What happened to him? He runs that settlement I told you about now. The one where people like us can live free. He reached out to me after I left the military. Told me there was better work to do than serving the corporations. I've been doing it ever since." An alarm suddenly blared through the ship. Taeyang's expression changed instantly. All the warmth gone, replaced by cold focus. "Get to the back compartment," he ordered. "Stay there until I tell you it's safe. What's happening?" "Company," Taeyang said, and ran toward the cockpit. Jiwoo followed him instead of hiding. Through the cockpit window, she saw them. 3 ships, sleek and fast, with the Vrax corporate symbol painted on their hulls. Pursuit ships. Her stomach dropped. "They found us," she whispered. Tae-Yang was already in the pilot's seat, his hands flying over the controls. "Of course they found us. Stealing corporate property is bad for business. They can't let it slide, or other workers might get ideas about freedom." The communication system crackled to life. Thick's voice filled the cockpit, sharp and angry. "Unidentified human vessel. You are harboring stolen property. Return Unit Jiwoo immediately or be destroyed." "Stolen property," Taeyang muttered. That's rich coming from creatures who steal people's lives. He hit the communication button. This is the Lone Star. I don't have any property on board. Just a free human being who nearly died because you left her in the snow. Sentiment is a weakness of your species. Thixful clicked. We do not negotiate with thieves. Surrender now or face elimination. Elimination, Taeyang said, and he actually laughed. You really don't understand humans at all, do you? We don't surrender. It's not in our nature. He cut the communication and looked at Ji Woo. Hold on to something. This is going to get rough. The Lone Star suddenly dove, spinning through space in a way that made Ji Woo's stomach flip. The pursuit ships followed, firing energy weapons that lit up the darkness. Taeyang's hands moved across the controls, like he was playing music, dodging and weaving through the weapons fire. Why don't you shoot back? Ji Woo asked, gripping the back of his chair. Because I'm trying to run, not start a war, Taeyang said. Those ships have military-grade weapons. I've got cargo haulers and hope. The ship shuddered as a blast hit the rear shields. Okay, mostly hope at this point. Ji Woo watched the pursuit ships getting closer. They were faster than the Lone Star, and there were 3 of them. Simple math said this chase would end badly. You should surrender me, she said. It's me they want. You can escape if you give me back. Taeyang looked at her like she had said something stupid. That's not happening. Why not? You barely know me. Because you're a person, Ji Woo. And people don't give up people. That's what makes us different from them. He pulled hard on the controls, and the ship spiraled through a field of asteroids. The pursuit ships had to slow down, carefully navigating the rocks. Besides, I've got a plan. What plan? I'm going to call in a favor. Taeyang hit several buttons, and the communication system lit up again. This time, he was broadcasting on a different channel. Sang-mi, you out there? Static for a moment. Then a woman's voice, sharp and amused. Taeyang? What did you do this time? Picked up a worker from Vostok 7. Now I've got 3 Rax pursuit ships on my tail. Of course you do. You ever think about living a quiet life? Where's the fun in that? I'm about 15 minutes from the Kepler belt. Any chance you're in the neighborhood? More static. Ji Woo held her breath. Then Sang-mi's voice came back. I'm 20 minutes out. Can you last that long? Taeyang looked at his screens, at the pursuit ships getting closer again. I guess we'll find out. Lone Star out. The next 15 minutes were the longest of Ji Woo's life. Taeyang pushed the ship through impossible maneuvers, using every asteroid and debris field to break line of sight with the pursuit ships. Twice, weapons fire hit the shields, and the whole ship shook. Warning lights flashed across the control panels. Come on, Taeyang muttered. Come on, Sang-mi, where are you? Then, like an answer to a prayer, a new ship appeared on the sensors. It was bigger than the Lone Star, heavily armed, and it came in fast. Sang-mi's voice filled the cockpit again. Sorry, I'm late to the party. Let's even these odds. A ship opened fire on the pursuit ships, and suddenly the Rax were the ones running. Sang-mi was a better pilot than all of them, and her weapons were military surplus. The kind that could punch through corporate shields like paper. That's my cue to run, Taeyang said, and punched the engines to full. The Lone Star shot forward, leaving the fight behind. 20 minutes later, they were in clear space. Sang-mi's ship flew alongside them, and her face appeared on the communication screen. She was younger than Ji Woo expected, maybe 30, with short hair and a scar across her cheek. She looked at Taeyang with the expression of someone who had known him too long. You owe me for this, Sang-mi said. Add it to my tab, Taeyang replied. Grinning. Sang-mi's eyes moved to Ji Woo. So this is the person worth getting shot at for? Ji Woo didn't know what to say. She was just a worker, nobody special. Nobody worth risking a ship for. But Sangmi smiled at her, and it was a warm smile. Welcome to the Free Humans Club. Fair warning, we're all a little crazy. I'm starting to understand that, Jiwoo said. After Sangmi left to lead the Vrak ships on a false trail, Taeyang set the ship to autopilot and turned to Jiwoo. You okay? I don't understand you people, Jiwoo said. Sangmi risked her life for someone she doesn't even know. You risked everything to save me. Why? What's in it for you? Taeyang thought about it for a moment. You know what the Vraks and all the other corporate aliens say about us. They say humans are weak because we care about each other. Because we help people even when it costs us something. They think it's a flaw in our species. He leaned back in his chair. But I think it's our greatest strength. Every human who stands up and helps someone, every person who refuses to leave another person behind, that's what makes us dangerous. That's what they're really afraid of. They have better weapons, bigger ships, more money, Jiwoo said. Yeah, they do. But we've got something they'll never understand. We've got each other. And that matters more than they know. Jiwoo looked out at the stars and thought about Haijin. Still trapped on Vostok 7, she thought about all the other workers. All the other humans suffering under corporate control. And for the first time, she thought maybe, just maybe, they could fight back. Taeyang, she said quietly. About that rescue mission. For my sister, I want to help plan it. I know the colony layout. I know the guard schedules. I can be useful. Taeyang smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. Welcome to the team, Jiwoo. The cold had almost killed her spirit. But the cowboy had chosen to save her. And now she was choosing to save someone else. That's what humans did. The Lone Star traveled through the dark spaces between stars, the places where corporate patrols rarely went. Taeyang called it the long way around, taking routes that added days to their journey but kept them hidden. Jiwoo didn't mind. For the first time in 8 years, she wasn't running on a work schedule. Time felt different when it belonged to you, but planning a rescue mission was harder than she expected. Every night, she sat in the cockpit with Taeyang, spreading out maps of Vostok 7 on the console, marking guard positions and shift changes. The more they planned, the more impossible it seemed. There are always at least 20 Vraks guards on duty, Jiwoo said, pointing to the barracks area. And they have automated defense turrets here, here, and here. Even if we get inside, getting everyone out will take time. They'll lock down the whole colony the moment they know something's wrong. Taeyang studied the maps, his hat pushed back on his head. Then, we need more than just the two of us. We need a team. Where are we going to find people crazy enough to attack a corporate colony? Taeyang smiled. You'd be surprised how many humans are tired of bowing to the corporations. I know a few. But first, we need to get you ready. The next morning, Taeyang brought Jiwoo to the cargo hold. He had set up targets on the far wall, and on the table lay 2 weapons. They looked like the pistols he carried, modified to look like old Earth revolvers, but powered by energy cells. You're going to teach me to shoot? Jiwoo asked. I'm going to teach you to survive, Taeyang said. Pick one up. The weapon was heavier than Jiwoo expected. It fit awkwardly in her hand, and when she tried to aim at the target, the barrel wobbled. Taeyang stepped behind her, his hands gently adjusting her grip. Breathe steady, he said quietly. Don't fight the weapon. Let it become part of you. Squeeze the trigger. Don't pull it. Jiwoo fired. The energy blast went wide, hitting the wall a meter from the target. She tried again, and again. For an hour, she missed more than she hit. Her arms ached. Her hands shook. But Taeyang didn't get frustrated. He just kept correcting her stance, adjusting her aim, encouraging her. Why are you so patient? Ji-woo finally asked. I'm terrible at this. You're learning. That's different from being terrible. Besides, you should have seen me when I was starting out. I nearly shot my own foot off twice. He handed her the weapon again. One more time. Feel the weight. Trust yourself. This time, when Ji-woo fired, the blast hit the edge of the target. It wasn't a perfect shot, but it was progress. Taeyang grinned like she had just won a war. Over the next week, shooting practice became part of their daily routine. But Taeyang also taught her other things. How to pilot the Lone Star in case of emergency. How to read sensor displays and identify different types of ships. How to move quietly. How to think tactically. How to stay calm when everything was falling apart. On Vostok 7, I was just a worker. Ji-woo said one evening as they sat in the common area, sharing a meal. I did what I was told. I didn't think for myself. It was easier that way. The corporations like it easier, Taeyang said. Thinking people are dangerous people. That's why they work so hard to break your spirit. If they can make you stop thinking, stop hoping, they win. They almost won with me. If you hadn't come, but I did come. And now you're here, learning to fight back. That's what matters. Ji-woo looked at him across the table. In the soft light of the ship, without his hat and his weapons, Taeyang looked almost normal. Almost like someone who could have a quiet life somewhere, a safe life. Why do you do this? She asked. Really? You could go to one of those free settlements and live peacefully. Why keep putting yourself in danger? Taeyang was quiet for a long moment. Because I can't forget the faces, he said finally. All the people I saw suffering when I was still in the military. All the workers I was ordered to force back into service. I'd see them and know they were dying inside, and I did nothing because I was following orders. He looked at her. I can't follow those orders anymore. I can't follow those orders anymore. And I can't pretend I don't see what's happening. So I do what I can. Save who I can. It's not enough, but it's something. It's more than something, Ji-woo said softly. You gave me my life back. Their eyes met, and something shifted in the air between them. Ji-woo felt her heart speed up. Taeyang reached across the table, and his hand covered hers. His skin was warm, real. She had forgotten what human touch felt like when it wasn't forced labor. Wasn't survival. Ji-woo, he started to say. Then the proximity alarm blared, and the moment broke. Taeyang was on his feet instantly, running to the cockpit. Ji-woo followed, her heart now racing for different reasons. On the sensors, a ship was approaching. Big, military grade. Friend or enemy? Ji-woo asked. Taeyang checked the identification codes. Then he relaxed and smiled. Friend. That's Dongjun. The other ship pulled alongside the Lone Star, and through the communication screen, Ji-woo saw a man in his 40s with gray in his hair and eyes that had seen hard times. This was the man who had given up his military career to save people. The one who ran the free settlement. Taeyang, Dongjun said, his voice rough but warm. Sangmi told me you picked up another stray, and that you're planning something stupid. It's not stupid if it works, Taeyang replied. It's always stupid with you. Just sometimes it also works. Dongchun's eyes moved to Ji-woo. You're the one from Vostok 7? Yes, sir, Ji-woo said automatically, then winced. She didn't have to call anyone sir anymore. Dongjun smiled gently. No sirs here. I'm just Dongjun. Sanmi says you want to go back and get your sister out. And the other workers if we can, Ji-woo said. I know it's dangerous. I know the odds are bad. But I can't just leave them there. The odds are always bad when you fight the corporations, Dongjun said. That's never stopped us before. I'm in. and I know 2 others who will help. Over the next few days, they rendezvoused with the other members of their team. Wu Jin was a quiet man in his late 20s, with hands that were always moving, always building or fixing something. He had lost his entire family when a corporate mining ship had a preventable accident that the company decided wasn't worth preventing. Now he made his living creating explosives for people who wanted to hurt those corporations back. Young Su was older, past 50, with a face like weathered leather and a ship full of weapons that he had acquired over years of raiding corporate supply lines. He didn't talk much, but when he looked at Ji Woo, his eyes were kind. They all gathered on Dong Chun's ship, which was big enough for meetings. Ji Woo stood at the front, next to Tae Yang, looking at these 5 people who were willing to risk everything for a sister they had never met, for workers they didn't know. "Why are you all doing this?" she asked. "You don't owe me anything." Sang-mi spoke first. "The Vraks killed my brother when he tried to escape a colony like yours. I've been making them pay for it ever since." Wu Jin adjusted the tools on his belt. "Because someone needs to show the corporations they can't just throw people away." Young Su just shrugged. "Someone's gotta do it." "Might as well be us." Dongjun stepped forward. "We do it because we're human, Jiwoo. And humans don't leave their people behind. It's simple as that." Tae Yang put his hand on her shoulder. "You're one of us now. And we take care of our own." Jiwoo felt tears starting, but she blinked them back. There would be time for tears later. Now, there was work to do. She turned to the maps of Vostok 7 spread across the table. "Okay," she said, her voice steady. "Let me show you the colony layout. The workers are kept in 3 main barracks. My sister Haijin works in Processing Center Beta. The guard change happens at 6-hour intervals, and there's a weak point in the sensor grid here. They plan through the night and into the next day. Every detail mattered. Every second would count. The Vraks wouldn't make it easy, and mistakes would cost lives. But as Jiwoo worked with the team, explaining patrol routes and weak points, teaching them the layout she had memorized over 8 years, she felt something growing inside her. It wasn't hope anymore. It was something stronger. It was purpose. Tae-Yang found her later, standing alone in the observation deck, looking out at the stars. "You okay?" he asked. "I'm scared," Jiwoo admitted. "What if we fail? What if people die because of this? Because of me? Then we fail trying," Tae-Yang said. "And that's better than not trying at all. But I don't think we're going to fail. You know why? Why? Because we're fighting for something the Vraks will never understand. We're not doing this for profit or power. We're doing it because it's right. Because those workers deserve freedom. Because your sister deserves to see the stars without chains. That gives us an edge they can't plan for." He stood next to her, both of them looking out at the endless dark. "You've changed, you know," he said quietly. "When I picked you up from the snow, you were broken. Now look at you, leading a rescue mission, learning to fight. You're not the same person. You did that," Jiwoo said. "You and the others. You showed me I could be more than what they made me. We just reminded you who you always were," Tae-Yang said. "The strength was already there. You just needed a reason to use it." Jiwoo turned to face him. They were close, closer than they needed to be. She could see the flecks of gold in his eyes, could feel the warmth radiating from him. "Tae-Yang, she started. The ice moon looked exactly as Jiwoo remembered it. White and cold and merciless. But this time, she wasn't arriving in chains. This time, she was arriving with weapons and friends and a plan. The difference made her feel like a completely different person. The team gathered in the cargo hold of Dong Chun's ship, checking weapons and equipment one last time. Jiwoo wore armor now, real armor, not the thin thermal suit she had frozen in. Taeyang had given her one of his pistols, and it sat heavy on her hip. A reminder that she wasn't helpless anymore. Everyone knows their part? Dongjun asked, looking around at the team. Sangmi nodded, checking her rifle. I take out the communication tower. No calls for reinforcements. Woojin patted the bag of explosives at his feet. I plant charges on the processing center and the power station. Timed for exactly 20 minutes after we start. Gives us time to get everyone out. Young-Soo loaded shells into a massive shotgun. I hold the main gate. Nothing gets in or out unless we say so. Taeyang looked at Ji-woo. And we get to the barracks, find your sister, and lead the workers to the ships. Simple, Ji-woo said. It wasn't simple at all. It was dangerous and probably stupid. But it was also necessary. She thought of Hai-jin still down there in the cold, still thinking freedom was impossible. Not anymore. Remember, Dongjun said, his voice serious. We're not trying to kill anyone if we can avoid it. We're not murderers. We're liberators. But if the Vraks force the issue, don't hesitate. Your lives matter more than their profits. They landed the ship in the same spot where supply vessels usually docked. It was a shift change, just like Ji-woo had predicted. The guards would be distracted, focused on the workers moving between locations. It gave them a small window. A very small window. The cargo door opened, and the cold hit Ji-woo like a physical force. But this time, she had real armor, real heat. The cold couldn't touch her. She was stronger than it now. Go! Dongjun shouted. The team split up. Sangmi disappeared into the dark, heading for the communication tower on the ridge. Woojin ran toward the processing center, his bag of explosives bouncing on his back. Young-Soo took position at the main gate, his shotgun ready. And Ji-woo ran with the Taeyang toward the worker barracks. Her heart pounding, but her hands steady. They didn't make it far before the first alarm sounded. A Vraks guard spotted them from a watchtower and triggered the colony-wide alert. Lights flooded the compound. Automated turrets whirred to life. Ji-woo heard Dixval's voice over the loudspeakers, screeching in rage. Intruders! All guards to defensive positions. Kill them all. So much for the subtle approach, Taeyang muttered. He pulled both his pistols and fired at the nearest turret. The energy blasts took it apart in 2 shots. Come on. They ran through the compound, and it was chaos. Vraks guards poured out of their heated buildings, firing weapons at anything that moved. But Taeyang moved like he had done this 100 times before, diving behind cover, returning fire with perfect accuracy. Ji-woo tried to keep up, her own pistol barking in her hands. A guard appeared in front of them, insect eyes reflecting the alarm lights. Ji-woo didn't hesitate. She fired, and the guard went down. Her hands were shaking, but she kept moving. No time to think about what she had just done. Only time to keep going. They reached the first barracks. Taeyang kicked the door open, and inside, workers stared at them in shock. These were people Ji-woo had worked beside for years. They looked exactly as she had looked weeks ago. Broken, hopeless, afraid. Listen to me, Ji-woo shouted over the alarms. We're here to get you out. Anyone who wants to be free, follow us now. Nobody moved. They just stared, like freedom was a word they didn't understand anymore. Please, Ji-woo begged. I know you're scared. I was scared too. But you don't have to live like this. There are places where the corporations can't reach you. Places where you can be free. An older man in the back spoke up. They'll catch us. They always catch runaways. It's better to just serve the time. There is no serving the time. Ji-woo screamed. The debt never ends. They design it that way. Don't you see? You'll die here if you stay. A young woman near the front stood up slowly. Is it real? Freedom? Is it really real? Yes, Jiwoo said. I promise you. It's real. I've lived it. I felt it. Please, trust me. The young woman walked toward the door. Then another worker followed. Then another. Soon, the entire barracks was moving, filing out into the cold. Taeyang led them toward the ships while Jiwoo ran to the next barracks. Across the compound, Sanmi's voice came through the communication device. Tower is down. They can't call for help. Woojin chimed in next. Charges are set. 80 minutes and counting. Good, Dongjun replied. Young-soo, how's the gate? Busy. Young-soo's shotgun boomed in the background. They're trying to lock it down, but I'm not letting them. Jiwoo reached the second barracks. More workers, more fear. But word was spreading now. Some of them had already heard that someone was rescuing people. They were ready to run. Jiwoo led them out, and Taeyang appeared to guide them to the ships. One more barracks, Jiwoo said. Processing Center Beta. That's where Hyjin is. Then let's move, Taeyang said. But getting to Processing Center Beta meant crossing the main compound, and the Vraks had brought out their heavy weapons. Energy cannons fired from the guard towers. Automated drones filled the air, searching for targets. Jiwoo and Taeyang had to duck behind supply crates, firing back when they could, always moving forward. This is insane, Jiwoo shouted over the weapons fire. Welcome to the revolution, Taeyang shouted back, grinning like a maniac. He took down 2 drones with 4 perfect shots. Having fun yet? Despite everything, despite the danger and the fear, Jiwoo found herself smiling. Maybe she was going crazy. Or maybe this was what being alive felt like. They reached the processing center, just as a group of Vraks guards came around the corner. There were 6 of them, fully armed. Too many to fight head-on. But then the ground shook, and an explosion ripped through the guard barracks. Woojin's voice came through the com. Sorry, had to improvise. Moved up the schedule. The explosion distracted the guards long enough for Taeyang and Jiwoo to slip past them into the processing center. Inside, workers operated massive machines that refined ice into water and oxygen. The noise was deafening. Jiwoo ran through the facility, searching the faces. Then she saw her. Hyjin stood at a control panel, her face thin and pale, her hands shaking as she worked. She looked so much older than 19. The colony had aged her, just like it had aged Jiwoo. But she was alive. She was here. Hyjin! Jiwoo screamed out. Her sister turned, and her eyes went wide. Jiwoo? But they said you died. They said you froze in the I'm alive, Jiwoo said, grabbing her sister's hands. And I'm getting you out of here. All of you. She turned to the other workers. Anyone who wants to live free, we're leaving now. Follow me. This time, nobody hesitated. They had seen the explosions. They had heard the alarms. They knew something big was happening, and they wanted to be part of it. The entire processing center emptied out. Workers running toward the ships. Jiwoo ran with Hyjin's hand in hers, and it was the best feeling in the world. She had come back for her sister. She had kept her promise. They were together again, but they still had to get off the colony. The main compound was a war zone now. Young-soo had abandoned the gate and was fighting alongside Dongjun, both of them holding back waves of Vraks guards. Sang-mi provided cover fire from a rooftop. Woojin was setting more charges, creating chaos everywhere. To the ships! Dongjun shouted. Everyone to the ships! The workers ran, stumbling through the snow, many of them wearing only thin suits. But other workers gave them coats, helped them along. Humans helping humans. the way it should be. G-Wu and Hai-Jin were almost to the ship when Thixful stepped out in front of them. The overseer held a massive energy rifle, and its insect eyes burned with rage. "You!" it screeched at Ji-Wu. "You were nothing. You were dying in the snow. You should have stayed dead." "Yeah, well," Ji-Wu said, raising her pistol. "I got better." Thixful fired, but Taeyang was faster. He dove in front of Ji-Wu, his own weapons blazing. The shots hit Thixful's rifle, destroying it. The overseer stumbled backward, and Taeyang stood over it, both pistols aimed at its head. "You really don't understand us, do you?" Taeyang said. "You think caring about each other makes us weak. But it's what makes us strong. We come back for our people. We risk everything for each other. And that's why you'll never beat us." "Primitive sentiment," Thixful hissed. "Your species will always be slaves." "Keep thinking that," Taeyang said. "Right up until the day we take back every colony, every station, every inch of space you stole from us." He didn't shoot the overseer. Instead, he pulled out a small device and activated it. "By the way, every illegal thing you've done here, every rule you broke, every worker you abused, I've been recording it all and broadcasting it on every corporate channel. Your bosses are going to be very interested in how you've been running this place." Thixful's eyes widened in what might have been fear. Taeyang and Ji-Wu ran for the ship. Behind them, Wu Jin's charges detonated in sequence, destroying the processing center, the power station, the barracks. The colony was coming apart, but everyone who mattered was already on the ships. Young Su was the last one aboard. "Everyone's accounted for," he shouted. "Then let's get out of here." The fleet of stolen ships traveled through deep space for 3 days before reaching Dongchun settlement. Ji-Wu spent most of that time with Hai-Jin, just holding her sister, talking about everything and nothing. They cried together. They laughed together. They were together, and that was all that mattered. But Ji-Wu also spent time watching the freed workers. There were 43 of them, ranging from teenagers to elderly people who had been working on Vostok 7 since before Ji-Wu was born. They all had the same look in their eyes: confusion, wonder, fear that this dream would end and they would wake up back in the cold. On the third night, Ji-Wu found Taeyang in the cockpit, staring out at the stars. He had been quiet since they left the colony, more thoughtful than usual. She sat down next to him without saying anything. Sometimes silence was enough. "You know what's strange?" Taeyang finally said. "I've done this a dozen times now. Rescued workers from different colonies, different corporations. And it never gets easier. I always wonder if we're doing the right thing. If we're just making things worse. How could freeing people be wrong?" Ji-Wu asked. "Because now they're fugitives. They can never go back to the core worlds. They'll spend the rest of their lives hiding in settlements like Dongchun's, always looking over their shoulders. Is that really freedom? Or is it just a different kind of prison?" Ji-Wu thought about it. She thought about Vostok 7, about the cold that had almost killed her, about 8 years of hopelessness. Then she thought about these past few weeks with Taeyang, learning to shoot, learning to hope, learning to be human again. "You asked me once what the Vraks don't understand about us," Ji-Wu said. "I think I know now. They don't understand that we'd rather die free than live as slaves. Even if freedom means running forever, even if it means never being safe, it's still better than chains." She looked at him. "You gave us a choice. That's all anyone can ask for." Taeyang smiled, but it was a sad smile. "I hope you're right." The settlement appeared on the 4th day. It was built inside a massive asteroid, hidden from sensors, powered by illegal reactors. From the outside, it looked like nothing. But inside, it was a small city. Hundreds of humans lived here, all of them refugees from corporate control. They had farms growing under artificial light. They had shops and schools and homes. It wasn't perfect, but it was theirs. When the ships landed in the docking bay, people came out to meet them. Dongchun's people experienced at welcoming refugees, ready with food and blankets and medical care. The freed workers stepped off the ships looking overwhelmed. Some of them cried. Some of them fell to their knees. All of them were finally truly free. Jiwoo watched Haijin meet the settlement doctor, a kind woman who promised to help with the lung damage from years of breathing poor air. She watched the other workers being led to temporary housing, to warm beds and hot meals. She watched humans helping humans. No contracts or debts or corporations between them. "This is what we fight for," Dongjun said, standing next to her. "Every person here is someone who refused to give up. Someone who chose freedom over safety. This is humanity at its best." "How many settlements like this are there?" Jiwoo asked. "Maybe 20 that I know of. Probably more that I don't. All across the frontier, humans are building places where the corporations can't reach us. It's not enough, not yet. But it's a start." Over the next week, Jiwoo helped the freed workers settle in. She showed them around, answered their questions, told them about her own journey from broken slave to free woman. But she also noticed something happening. People were talking, not just about their freedom, but about what came next. About fighting back. About freeing others. The young woman who had been the first to follow Jiwoo out of the barracks came to her on the 7th day. Her name was Misun, and she had fire in her eyes now. "I want to learn to fight," she said. "I want to help rescue others like you rescued us." "It's dangerous," Jiwoo warned. "You could die." "I could have died on Vostok 7, Misun said. "At least this way, I die doing something that matters." More workers came with the same request. They wanted to join Taeyang's crew, wanted to become liberators themselves. The rescue had changed them. They had seen that resistance was possible. They had seen that humans could stand up to the corporations and win. "You started something," Sangmi told Jiwoo over dinner one night. The whole team was there, celebrating their victory. The story of Vostok 7 is spreading. Other colonies are hearing about it. Workers are starting to resist. Small things at first. Slowdowns. Sabotage. But it's growing. "The corporations are going to crack down hard," Wu Jin said. "Always the practical one. They can't let this become a trend." "Let them try," Young Su rumbled. "The harder they push, the harder we push back. That's how revolutions work." Taeyang raised his glass. "To humanity, too stubborn to know when we're beaten." They all drank to that. But later, when the celebration was over, Taeyang found Jiwoo alone in the observation deck. She was looking out at the stars, thinking about everything that had happened. "What happens now?" she asked him. "We saved 43 people. But there are millions still enslaved. Millions still suffering. How do we save them all?" "We don't," Taeyang said honestly. "Not alone. But we inspired 43 people today. And some of them will inspire others. And those people will inspire even more. That's how it works. One person at a time. One choice at a time. Every human who stands up makes the next one braver. Is that enough?" "It has to be. Because it's all we have." He stood next to her, and they looked out at the universe together. "You know what the real difference between us and the Rax is? It's not technology or weapons or money. It's that we believe in something bigger than ourselves. We believe that every person matters. That every life has value. They think that makes us weak. But it's what makes us dangerous." Jiwoo turned to face him. They had danced around this for weeks now, the feeling growing between them, the connection that went beyond friendship. "Taeyang," she said softly, "when I was dying in the snow, I had given up. I thought my life was over. But you chose to save me. You didn't have to. It cost you everything. But you did it anyway. I'd do it again, he said. I know. That's what makes you amazing. She stepped closer. You asked me once what I wanted. I didn't have an answer then. But I do now. I want to be like you. I want to help people the way you help me. I want to fight back against the corporations. I want to show them that humans aren't property. We're not slaves. We're people. You already do all that, Taeyang said. Then I want to do it with you, Jiwoo said. As your partner. In all of this. If you'll have me. Taeyang smiled, and it was the warmest smile Jiwoo had ever seen. I was hoping you'd say that. He kissed her then, gentle and careful, like she was something precious. And maybe she was. Maybe they all were. Maybe that was the point when they finally pulled apart. Jiwoo rested her head against his chest, listening to his heartbeat. Outside, the stars stretched forever. Inside, she felt warm for the first time in 8 years. Not the warmth of heated air or thermal suits. The warmth of hope. Of purpose. Of love. The cold almost crushed my spirit, she whispered. But you chose to save me. And now I'm going to choose to save others. That's what humans do. We save each other. No matter the cost. That's what makes us human, Taeyang agreed. And that's why we'll win in the end. Not today. Maybe not tomorrow. But eventually. Because we never stop trying. We never stop fighting. We never leave our people behind. 3 months later, the story of Vostok 7 had reached every corner of human space. Workers on a dozen colonies started small rebellions. Some were crushed. Some succeeded. But all of them proved the same thing. Resistance was possible. Freedom was possible. Hope was possible. The corporations tried to suppress the information. They tried to hunt down Taeyang and his crew. They offered massive rewards. But for every ship they sent, 3 human ships appeared to fight them off. For every settlement they discovered, 5 new ones appeared in the dark. The network was growing. The resistance was spreading. Jiwoo and Taeyang continued their work, now with a larger crew. Haijin had joined them, along with Mi-sun and 6 others from Vostok 7. They rescued workers from other colonies. They built new networks. They spread the message of freedom across the stars. On Earth, in the halls of the Human Coalition government, representatives debated what to do about the growing resistance. Some wanted to crush it. Some wanted to support it. But all of them understood that something had changed. Humanity was no longer willing to accept corporate slavery. The frontier was burning with the fire of revolution. In a small ceremony on Dongchun settlement, they erected a statue. It showed a man in a long coat and a wide-brimmed hat, carrying a woman from the snow. The plaque at the base read, "We are strong because we choose to care." Thousands of people visited that statue. They came to remember that one person's choice to save another had sparked a revolution. They came to understand that every act of kindness mattered. Every rescue. Every stand against tyranny. Every human who helped another human was proof that they were more than what the corporations thought. Jiwoo stood before that statue with Taeyang one evening, holding his hand. "Do you think we